this is a big problem, cancer, in New England, specifically Rhode Island.
Rhode Island has a higher rate of cancer than the national average across multiple cancer types, both common and less common.
What are some of those cancers?
Prostate cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, endometrial cancer, bladder cancer, liver cancer, leukemia, brain cancer are among the cancers whose rates are higher in Rhode Island. And there's a little bit of geography to it in Rhode Island as well. So not only are they higher in the state, but in some of our communities, they're even a little bit higher as well.
Southern part of the state?
Well, I've been learning about that. The southern part of the state, Washington County, has higher rates of prostate cancer, brain cancer, and leukemia. Kent County has higher rates of breast cancer, bladder cancer, and lung cancer. Now, breast and bladder are also high in Bristol County. Providence County has higher rates of colon cancer, stomach cancer, and I should have said earlier.
Well, this is just for information now, so so what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, Kent County has higher rates of lung cancer and esophageal cancer, and also higher rates of breast and bladder, although the highest rates in the state for breast and bladder are in Bristol County. Newport County has the highest rates of thyroid cancer and melanoma.
So we're really spreading it throughout the state here. Why do you think our cancer rates are so high in Rhode Island? Is it environmental?
The environment, it can certainly be part of it, and this is a difficult problem, and one of the reasons we have a cancer center here that is working towards NCI designation. And, you know, NCI designation means something to the state, it means something to our hospitals, it means something to the people who have confidence in going to the hospitals, that they're getting the best care and access to the latest advances and clinical trials.
So how do you get National Cancer Institute designation?
It takes a village, probably more than a village. It takes people working together, and you have to meet certain standards of research accomplishments, clinical trials, but very importantly, impact on the community. So every NCI designated cancer center has a component known as community outreach and engagement. And in the recent years, this has become front and center as far as a mandate to get into the communities, learn about the burden of cancer, and speak to members of the community about their burdens, their challenges, and take that back. And it's not just learning, it's listening and acting. So a few years ago, it was just, you know, the bar keeps getting higher. So now we need to be able to demonstrate impact in different communities. And different communities are affected by cancer in different ways. In some cases, it's not just environment, it's also genetics. And in other communities, it's access to care, the inability to access preventative screening, or if they're suffering from cancer, the inability to afford the cost of drugs.
So how do you measure impact? By having lower cancer rates, by getting it earlier, in order to get that NCI designation?
Yeah, so basically creating a cancer center won't get us to NCI designation. It's really the impact on the practice of medicine, oncology, impact on the community, so higher screening rates, lower incidence of cancer eventually, better survival of patients in the future. And part of the way we get there is to address the problems and also to make sure that we are making new discoveries here that are ending up in clinical trials. One of the most exciting aspects for with being at a cancer center is to be part of a community that's making unique new discoveries and translating them to clinical trials. And those clinical trials end up being unique in the United States.
We're heading in the right direction, though.
We definitely are. So a lot has happened in the last 5 years with numerous recruitments. We just had a 3-hour retreat a couple of days ago that brought together the leadership of the Cancer Center from around our community and all the different institutions we spoke about. And one of the things that I took away from that is that we've just recruited some amazing people over the last couple of years. And also that we have become more competitive with getting NCI grants. So part of the getting to NCI designation involves being competitive with NCI grants. And if you look, this is publicly available data. If you look at the NIH reporter, you will see that in 2020, Brown University had a couple of $1 million in NCI funding. Lifespan had about $700,000. University of Rhode Island had about $400,000 in NCI funding. And even putting it all together, it's not enough. If you look at 2022, which is the latest available data, Brown now has well over $6 million.
Research.
NCI grants.
Yeah.
NCI grants. Direct costs, so not total costs. Total costs is even more. And Lifespan has $1.2 million in direct costs. And University of Rhode Island still has around $400,000.
You're heading in the right direction.
We are most certainly headed in the right direction. And let me tell you, part of meeting the standard has to do with cancer-focused, cancer-relevant research. Okay, and so NCI funding is the gold standard. Some of our leading cancer centers around the country have anywhere from 10 million to 40 million, or even higher than 40 million. We know them well, and we're proud of them.
But you're expanding. That's the ultimate goal, is to expand, along with your partners, your imprint on cancer research in the state.
We are expanding, so we need to grow. We're continuing to recruit colleagues from around the country. The interesting thing, so I should tell you, I came to Rhode Island over 4 years ago because I saw that this can be done here. There are a lot of places around the country trying to do this, but they don't have Brown University, they don't have Lifespan or Care Newton, they don't have the amazing clinicians and the community that we have here. And so we have been growing. We've already recruited some amazing colleagues. I think you're meeting many of them. But we need to continue on this path. We have some momentum. Now we've sort of come to a point where we've run out of space and we need resources. So I can tell you a little bit about both of those.
Okay.
So as far as space, it's no secret. I mean, talk to anyone in terms of recruiting space. I'm going to show you some of the space that we have here just to give you a sense of what a advanced cancer lab in 2023 might be capable of doing. So we're building a new integrated life sciences building here at the medical school over the next 3-4 years. And this will have about 300,000 square feet. And of course, Rido's building is going to be right over there, right next to us. And the Wexford building is right over there with some space. So this will be tremendously helpful. Like I can tell you, and I've felt this over the last couple of years, there is great interest by amazing people around the country to come here and join us in what we're building. They're seeing what's happening on social media, they're seeing us at meetings, and some of the other people that we've recruited are national figures in the specific areas of oncology. And so, it's becoming known that we're building something very special here, and we're definitely on the right track.
And the bottom line is trying to figure out why we have such cancer rates, but also how to better catch them early, prevent them, treat them.
That is absolutely right. The best way to reduce the burden of cancer is through prevention. So there's been progress in Rhode Island with less smoking and HPV vaccination, and this has, that progress is there. But despite that progress, in 2023, the American Cancer Society predicts there'll be over 7,000 new cases of cancer and over 2,150 deaths
in Rhode Island.
In Rhode Island. So despite all of the progress, despite all of the advances, this is a fact. Okay?
Is that going up or down or staying the same?
It's similar year by year. So I'm not going to tell you, our population is fairly stable. I think if you look at the data, and if you look at national data or state data, you will see that rates of cancer have actually been trending down. And why is that? So the American Cancer Society nationally has tried to quantify this. So over the last 30 years, there have been fewer deaths from cancer, both among men and women. And if you add them all together, it's 3.5 million lives saved because of fewer people smoking, some advances in treatment, but we have a long way to go. This year nationally, there'll be close to 2 million new cases of cancer and over 600,000 deaths.
In Rhode Island, though, are you seeing death rates go down? I know our cancer rates are high, but are death rates still high?
Our death rates are higher than they are in other states. And this is likely due to some disparities. And one of the things that I'm really starting to appreciate about disparities, we have great cancer centers to the north and to the south and throughout, going down all the way to Washington and North Carolina. But the poor people can't really travel and don't travel to get to those places. It doesn't matter that there are amazing cancer centers nearby. It's hard enough for people, to go 20 minutes. So we want to make things convenient for our patients so that we can work on equity.
And providing those treatments here locally, because we know Rhode Islanders don't like to travel outside.
We do know that. And one thing I wanted to say is that building a world-class cancer center here takes partnership with the state, philanthropy, grants, to build it, to recruit it, and the benefits to Rhode Island go well beyond the impact on the community and the cancer burden. As we grow and recruit new researchers and clinicians to the area, and we have research labs, we're bringing new jobs. And also by having original research happening here in Rhode Island, we are making discoveries that get patented, companies get started. And interestingly, I started 3 companies in my career. Some of my colleagues who have been recruited in the last couple of years have also started several companies. And this is going to be happening here.
What is the time frame for this world-class cancer center?
When I first came here, I told people I was on the 5-year plan, and now I'm coming up on 5 years. I think we are about 3 years away from, it takes a year to write the grant. It's about somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 pages of grant.
So you still have that to do.
I mean, grants can be written pretty efficiently. It's like, what do you write about? But we have a lot to talk about in terms of accomplishments. And there's so much depth to the research that is already going here. And I'm hearing very positive things. So I was at our retreat, I heard from Dr. John Reagan, who heads our leukemia program, about one of our colleagues, Dr. Adam Olszewski, who has a clinical trial, and people are coming from Maine. They're flying over Massachusetts and coming down to Rhode Island to enroll in clinical trials. We have original clinical trials. We're about to start a clinical trial combining two drugs for the first time, two classes of drugs for the first time to treat patients with breast cancer and other tumors. And the trial itself is unique in the whole country. So as we do more of that, I think we need to get the word out in terms of what is happening here, and what the experience of the patients is at our hospitals. And I think, that also takes time. But the benefit ultimately is that members of our community will feel very comfortable to go to the hospitals knowing that they're getting the best care available anywhere and access to the clinical trials.
Excellent.
One of our initiatives is to go into the communities with something called MCET tests, multi-cancer early detection blood tests, which have come around, okay? Like it used to be for a lot of cancers, there was no early detection test. And on another occasion, I will tell you more about how I got interested in this, but we're partnering with the fire department. Deputy Fire Chief Zach Kenyon was telling me there are 400 in Providence, 400 firefighters that are exposed, they're higher risk, and wouldn't it be a good idea to have a screening blood test as part of their annual physical?
Will that be part of a clinical trial?
It would be part of a clinical trial, but the trial that we're planning is not just about the firefighters. We also want to be doing these tests in the underserved communities. Community centers, exactly. Perfect. To be able to show if we can detect those cancers that wouldn't have otherwise been detected. And by the way, these tests are cheaper than colonoscopies and scans. But not everybody, there is some skepticism.
Yeah.
Okay, if you detect things, what about false positives? Are you going to end up doing more tests and having higher costs? I can tell you the cost of these tests is now about $1,000.